Hi guys, welcome to today's writing session. Now, as you know, so far this week we've worked really hard to create a piece of non-fiction writing about a famous explorer using lots of conjunctions. The good news is, because you've already worked so hard this week, the main bulk of our writing is done, and now all we need to do is edit our work to improve it and make it even better. Our learning objective for today's lesson is to edit and improve our work. But before we do that, let's just remind ourselves about conjunctions, because so far this week we've been focusing on using these words. Tom wants to know, which of these words are conjunctions? Pause the video now and see if you can find all of the conjunctions on the screen. Well done. So our conjunctions got mixed up with some of our explorers' vocabulary. Remember, conjunctions join together two different parts of a sentence. So we have when, if, but, and because. We've practiced all of these so far this week. In today's session, you're going to edit your writing that you've done so far this week on the famous explorer that you chose. First, though, we're going to look together at my writing and see how we can edit it and improve it. So if you haven't done the writing so far, it doesn't matter, you can still join in with this bit. First, though, let's have a look at what our writing needs to include. So, as always, our writing needs capital letters at the start of sentences or for names of people or places. We need full stops at the end of each sentence, and remember, we don't want our sentences to be too long. If you've written a sentence that's 5 or 6 lines and you haven't got a full stop in there, your sentence is probably too long and needs to be broken down into smaller sentences. We also need finger spaces between words to make it really nice and clear that we've started a new word. So those are the basic things that our writing always needs to have, and now we're going to look at some things which are a little bit more specific to this particular piece of writing. Remember, our learning objective so far this week has been to use conjunctions, so these words on puzzle pieces, these joining words. Hopefully you've used some of these in your writing so far already. If you haven't, don't worry, because you can edit it and include some. As we've already spoken about this week, this writing is non-fiction, so it's about real people and real events. That means we're going to use headings and subheadings to make our writing nice and clear. If you haven't already done that, maybe you could add some when you're editing it. Now here's a couple of things that we haven't spoken about, but I'm going to challenge you to add to your work today. So you might like to try and include some adjectives to add some more description, and some adverbials of time to help sequence your work, so to help put it in order. Remember, adverbials of time are words like first, next, then, after that, finally, that help put events in order. So those are all the things that we're going to try and include in our writing. As I said, first of all, we're going to look at my writing and have a go at editing it together before you have a look at yours. This is the section of writing I did yesterday called What Happened. Now, you might notice that I've actually written it out again since yesterday. I don't want you to write your writing out again. The reason I've written mine out again is because we edited mine together yesterday, we made sure that all the capitals were right and all the full stops were right and so on. Today, I wanted us to have more practice at looking for those things and things we needed to change. So that's why I've written it out again, but this time with a few errors. Firstly, I'd like you to pause the video and have a look at what you would give a green for grape for. In particular, can you see any conjunctions? What are they? We'll talk about this together in just a moment. Well done. So I've looked through my work and found all the conjunctions that I managed to include that we'd practiced throughout the week. I've given them a green for great, but now we need to think about pink for thinks, because there are quite a few errors in my work. Have a close look and see what mistakes can you see that you would give a pink for think for. We'll talk about it together in just a moment. Great job. So as you can see, there's quite a few things that I need to change to correct. Let's have a go at that together now. Okay, let's get editing some of our pinks. So I'm going to use a purple pen like we would use at school, but if you don't have purple, then you can use anything you like, just another colour preferably, because then it's nice and clear to see what we've edited. So I'm going to go in order from the top down to the bottom and work out what I need to change. So to start with, for my subheading, I should have a capital letter. So I'm going to change that into a nice capital W. Then I've got a pink here because I'm missing a piece of punctuation. What happened is a question. So at the end, what do I need? That's right, a question mark. And I like this subheading because I'm going to answer that question in these paragraphs. Straight away, I've forgotten something at the start of my sentence. What have I forgotten? That's right, a capital letter. I always need a capital letter at the start of a new sentence. So I'll cross out my lowercase t, cross out my lowercase w there as well. I've also got pinks here, but this isn't the start of a new sentence. So why have I got pink for things here? That's right, because the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, it's a bit of a mouthful, is the name of the expedition. It's very grand, isn't it? So it needs capital letters for all of these letters. So the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. And it was called that because they were crossing the Antarctic, or that's what they wanted to do. Okay, began in 1914 when the expedition ship, the Endurance, left England. Now I've got capital letters for the Endurance, remember, because that's the name of the ship. I've got a pink for think here. Now, England isn't the start of the new sentence. It's actually at the end of this sentence. So why is there a pink there? Well, similar to the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, England is a name. It's the name of a place. So let's change that E into an uppercase capital letter and cross out that lowercase one. England. They made it to the South Pole. Again, same mistake. It's the name of a place. So South Pole needs capital letters for both words. But the Endurance got trapped. Now this is underlined, but I don't think it's because I need to change the T into a capital letter at the end. What have I done here, year 2? Trapped. It sounds to me that there's a T at the end. Remember, for past tense verbs, even if they have a T sound at the end, quite often they're spelt with an ED. So let's cross out that T. T-R-A-P-P-E-D. In ice and finally sank many months later. The expedition could, now this is underlined because I've got a spelling mistake. It does sound a bit like how I've written it, could, but as we know, it's a common exception word, a tricky word, so we need to learn how to spell it because it's not easy to sound out. There we go. Could have been successful if they had avoided the ice. Oh, what have I forgotten at the end? That's right, I need a full stop at the end of my sentence. After that, I made some corrections to my next 2 paragraphs. Do you agree with the changes I've made? Now we've corrected the errors and we know our work's accurate, we can think about making it even better by adding adjectives or adverbials of time. Let's have a read through and see what we can add. The Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition began in 1914 when the expedition ship, the Endurance, left England. They made it to the South Pole, but the Endurance got trapped in ice and finally sank many months later. The expedition could have been successful if they had avoided the ice. So I think a good place that I can add an adjective is before ice. I want to know what the ice was like and how they got trapped. So I looked it up and I read that the ice was solid. It's actually called pack ice, so it was very solid. Now, I could use solid, that's a perfectly good adjective, but I'm going to use a thesaurus to help me think of something else. Remember, we practiced using thesauruses in reading a couple of weeks ago, and we can use the thesaurus to find really cool synonyms, that's words which have a similar meaning to another one. So let's look up another word for solid now. Right, there were so many brilliant adjectives on the Thesaurus website that I've decided I'm not just going to use one, but I'm going to use two. And remember, if I use two adjectives for an expanded noun phrase, I need a comma in between to separate them. So I'm going to say the Endurance got trapped in dense, and then my comma, compacted ice. We looked at compacted a few weeks ago in reading as well as a key piece of vocabulary because igloos were made with compacted ice, if you remember. That means that it's been squashed together. So dense, compacted ice, and finally sank many months later. I've actually also got a adverbial of time there already, so I can underline finally as a green for great. Now let's look at this paragraph. Shackleton ordered the crew to abandon the ship and they sailed in small boats to Elephant Island. They ate seals and penguin meat because they needed to survive. I can see I've got an adjective already, small, but I think I could make that more interesting. So I'm not going to green for great it. I'm actually going to pink for think it. And again, look on my thesaurus to see if I can come up with a better adjective. Okay, remember, not all those synonyms will be appropriate because whilst they have a similar meaning, they aren't necessarily exactly the same. So you have to choose carefully. But I think I'm going to change small to two adjectives separated by a comma. In tiny, comma, cramped boats to add a little bit more description. Now, one thing I really want to add is an adverbial of time, and I think I can put one here. What do you think? So, the first thing that Shackleton did once the Endurance got trapped in the dense compacted ice was to order the crew to abandon the ship. So I'm going to use my adverbial of time first. Put comma after as well for a pause. First, Shackleton ordered the crew to abandon the ship and they sailed in tiny cramped boats to Elephant Island. I could fit one in here as well. And also here. First, Shackleton ordered the crew to abandon the ship and how about then? They sailed in tiny cramped boats to Elephant Island. What could go next? Well done. We could have next or after that. I think I'll go for after that. After that. That means I need to change this T into a lowercase one as it's no longer the start of the sentence. After that, they ate seals and penguin meat because they needed to survive. Here's my final edited piece of work then. So you see lots of purple pen as I've tried to improve it as much as possible. I've made sure I've got all my capitals and my full stops and my finger spaces. I've checked my spellings, but I've also tried to include extra adjectives and adverbials of time to make my work more interesting. Now it's your turn to have a go at this at home. Today, I'd like all of you to start with Chili 1. So, check that your work has capital letters, full stops, finger spaces, and conjunctions. Then you can move on to Chili 2, which is to add some adjectives to your work. You might like to use the thesaurus to come up with some really interesting vocabulary if you like. And once you've done that, you can have a go at Chili 3, which is adding some adverbials of time in as well. Good luck! Brilliant job again, Year 2. You've worked so hard this week, so well done. Hopefully your writing now should look a bit similar to mine in that it has lots of editing on, so lots of purple penning or whatever colour you've chosen to improve your work. For tomorrow's lesson, we're going to look at how we can decorate our work and present it really nicely, so should be a really fun way to end the week. See you then. Bye!